"We don't accept this grandson," my dad said after skipping Antonio's first birthday. I snapped, "Then don't ever ask me for help again." So I cut off their heat, took back the car, and froze every dollar they had. Now they're begging, but I'm done playing the good son. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be the type of guy to cut off his parents, let alone hit them where it hurts. Their comfort, their security, their money, but I guess everyone has a limit. Mine came quietly on a cold Saturday afternoon at my son Antonio's first birthday party. We'd rented out a small community hall, nothing flashy. Just balloons, a photo booth my wife made with cardboard, and love, cupcakes instead of cake because Antonio still hadn't figured out chewing. My wife, Mia, had put her whole heart into this, and honestly, so had I. We'd sent invites a month in advance. Called my parents twice. My mom said they'd be there. My dad, well, he grunted, which in his language means I don't care enough to argue about it. They didn't show up. No text. No call. Nothing. Not even a Facebook comment on the pictures Mia posted. I watched the clock more than I watched the magician we hired. I kept telling myself maybe they were just late. Maybe they had car trouble. But deep down, I already knew. They weren't coming. It would have hurt less if they just forgot. But the truth slapped me a few hours later when I called my mom and she picked up with noise in the background. The clinking of plates, the unmistakable laughter of my dad and my cousin Rick. They'd gone to Rick's barbecue on the same day, the same time. They'd chosen ribs and beer over their only grandson's first birthday. I didn't yell. I didn't even say I was mad. I just hung up. I went home that night and held Antonio while he slept. His little hand wrapped around my finger. My wife sat beside me on the bed. Quiet. Her face was calm, but I knew she was trying not to say it. That she was done giving my parents chances. I wasn't ready to be done yet. Not until I had answers. The next morning, I drove to their house. The place I grew up in. I walked through the same front door I once scraped my knees running through. My mom opened it. Surprised. Holding a coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. "Hey, we were gonna call," she said. "No, you weren't," I replied. "Where's Dad?" She motioned toward the den. I walked in and there he was sitting in the recliner, TV muted but the screen flashing highlights from a game I knew he hadn't even watched. He didn't look surprised to see me. Just annoyed, like I'd interrupted a moment of peace. "You missed Antonio's birthday," I said. He shrugged. "Didn't feel welcome." "Why wouldn't you be welcome?" He didn't answer at first. Just sipped his drink, black coffee, no sugar. Then he muttered, "You made your choice when you married her." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. "Excuse me. I told you before. I don't like how she treats you. Bossy. Controlling. She's not family material. She's raising that boy to be soft." My blood froze. "That boy is your grandson." "I didn't ask for that," he said flatly. "You rushed into everything. Marriage kid, you're always trying to prove something." Felt like he'd slapped me. I don't remember deciding to sit down, but suddenly I was in the old wooden chair across from him. My hands clenched. "So you're punishing a baby for your issues with me?" He didn't flinch. "I didn't come because I don't support any of it. That's not how I raised you." I laughed. One of those bitter, cracked laughs. "You didn't raise me. You just barked orders and made everything about you." My mom stepped in from the hallway, then voice shaky. "Let's not do this right now." "No," I said, standing. "Let's do this right now. Because I've been paying your mortgage for 2 years. I gave you my second car when Dad's truck broke down. I've covered your heating bills, your cell phones, and half the groceries you eat. And all I ever asked was for you to show up for my son." My dad scoffed. "You think that makes you better than us?" "No," I said, stepping toward the door. "I think it makes me stupid." And then I said it. The sentence I'd never said before, not even in my darkest moments. "Don't ever ask me for money, bills, or help again." My mom started crying. My dad stared at the muted television. Neither said a word as I walked out. That week, I followed through. I called the bank and froze the joint account I'd set up to help them. I called the utility company and removed myself as guarantor. The heat would stay on for 30 more days. After that, it was up to them. I took back the car. I sent a tow truck with a polite but firm note. They didn't call for 2 days. Then the text started. From my mom first, please don't do this. It's not fair. Then from my uncle, your dad's pride gets in the way, but he loves you. And finally, my dad, 3 days later, you're ungrateful. Everything I ever did was for you. This is how you repay us. I didn't reply. It was quiet in our house for a week after that. Too quiet. I felt like I was waiting for something, guilt, maybe regret, but it didn't come. Instead, one night, I watched Antonio take his first real steps. 5 wobbly, glorious steps across the living room toward his mother. We cheered like idiots and I thought, this is it. This is family. This is what my father could never give me. He missed it just like he missed the birthday. Just like he missed me becoming a man worth something, and I was done pretending that was my fault. The next week was quiet on the surface, but silence in families like mine doesn't mean peace. It means build-up. It means tension rising under the floorboards behind every text that isn't sent. Every call that isn't made started small. My mom texted again. Can we please talk? Just the two of us. I didn't answer right away. I showed the message to Mia, half expecting her to say, don't even think about it. But instead, she just said, you're the one who has to live with whatever comes next. So I replied, tomorrow. Noon. At the coffee shop. She was already there when I arrived. Hoodie pulled over her hair like she was trying to shrink into the seat. Her coffee sat untouched. I could tell she'd been crying and I hated that part of me still softened at that. I didn't want it to come to this. She said neither did I. She looked up and there was real hurt in her face. He's your dad. You think this is easy for me watching you cut off everything? I leaned forward. You watched him reject your grandson. I know. She paused. But he's not going to apologize. I blinked. Then why am I here? She took a shaky breath. Because I am. I didn't say anything. Not at first. She went on. I didn't say it at the party because I didn't want to upset you, but your father, he's been holding a grudge. Not just about Mia, about the money, about you being in a better place than he ever got to. So this is about ego. She looked up sharply. It's about a man who gave everything to his job and then watched his son become successful without needing any of the things he taught. I sat back. He doesn't need to like my success, but he doesn't get to punish my son for it. She reached across the table and gripped my hand lightly, like she wasn't sure if she had the right anymore. Please don't freeze us out. He's angry, but he's still your dad, and I'm still your mom. Her voice cracked then, and I almost folded, but something in me held steady. Not out of spite, just clarity. I didn't freeze you out, Mom. He did. The day he decided Antonio didn't count. She wiped her eyes, nodded once, and stood. Just don't do anything final, please. But I already had, and things were about to get even more real. 3 days later, my dad showed up at my door. Not called. Not texted. Just showed up. Mia answered and nearly slammed it shut again. I need to talk to my son, he said. She looked back at me and I nodded. It's fine. He walked in like he still owned the place. I didn't offer him a seat. He didn't ask for one. We just stood there in the living room a few feet apart while Antonio babbled in his playpen. Oblivious. You happy now? He asked. Depends. You here to fix it or just to blame me? He looked at Antonio then away. You embarrassed us. You shamed yourself. I shot back. All I did was stop paying for it. He stepped closer. You think money makes you right? No. I said, but cutting it off sure made you honest. That landed. I saw it in the way his jaw tightened. Your mom's cold. He muttered. She should have married someone warmer. He flinched. For a moment, I thought he'd blow up, raise his voice, bark some line about respect like he always used to, but instead, he sat down on the floor right next to Antonio. "Hey kid," he said quietly. Antonio stared at him for a second, then smiled wide and curious like babies do when they see a new face. "I didn't know how to be a grandfather," he said to no one in particular. "Didn't know how to be a dad either." He wasn't crying, but his voice cracked just enough to make my throat close up. I thought if I kept distance I'd stay in control. But the more I stayed away, the less control I had until there was nothing left. I didn't sit. I didn't speak. I was wrong. He finally said. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even emotional, but it was real. "I don't want your money." He added. "I don't want your help. I just don't want to be frozen out anymore." I looked at my son, who was now gripping one of my dad's fingers with both hands like he discovered a new toy. Then I looked at the men who'd never said sorry before. Not to me. Not once. "You hurt me." I said. "I know." "You hurt Mia." "I know." "And you hurt him before he even had a chance to know you." He nodded. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to fix that if you let me." I didn't answer right away. I walked over to Antonio, lifted him into my arms, and held him between us. "You want to be in his life?" I asked. "I do." "Then you come to him every time. No expectations. No judgments. No pride." My dad nodded slowly. "Deal." It wasn't fixed. Not completely. But it was real. And maybe that was enough. You'd think that once someone apologizes, especially someone like my dad, things would begin to heal. That the ice would melt and family would feel like family again. But the truth is, apologies don't erase damage. They just give you a choice. Rebuild or walk away. First, I chose to rebuild. He started coming over every Sunday. He'd bring small things, Antonio-sized footballs, a box of muffins, once even a miniature Yankees cap that was way too big. He'd sit on the floor, let Antonio crawl all over him. And for the first time in my life, I saw softness in my father. Actual softness. The kind that didn't come from words, but from showing up. But as the weeks went on, I started noticing little things. Comments. "You're not gonna let him cry it out a little." Back in my day, kids didn't get snacks every hour. He needs more structure. Too much cuddling makes him soft. First, I brushed it off. Old habits, generational gap. But then, one Sunday, I caught him whispering to Antonio like a joke, like a nothing comment. "You'll understand one day, kid. Your dad's good. But he still doesn't get how the world really works." That was it. I didn't explode. I didn't throw him out. I just stood there nodding slowly while Mia stared at me from the hallway. Her jaw clenched like she already knew what was coming. Later that night, I pulled out my laptop and logged back into the financial accounts I'd unfrozen. The utilities, the auto insurance I'd restarted, even the grocery delivery card I'd reloaded for my mom quietly without saying a word, and I shut it all down again. But this time, I didn't do it in silence. I sent an email. One line: "I gave you a second chance to be part of our lives, not to re-audition for the role of the man you used to be." The next day, my mom called, then texted, then emailed. She begged me not to do this again, said he'd try harder, said it was just how he talked, how he was raised, but I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. I was interested in peace for me, for my wife, for my son, and peace I realized wasn't about being polite to people who constantly tested your boundaries. It was about protecting your home, your real home, from being poisoned by old bitterness. Then came the kicker. 2 weeks after I cut everything off for good, I got a message from my cousin Rick. The same cousin whose barbecue they'd chosen over Antonio's birthday. "You made your point, but this is getting cruel, man. They're freezing in that house. No car, barely any heat. He's your dad." I stared at the message. I didn't even feel angry, just tired. So I replied, "You were the party he went to instead. You can be the one to help him now." Rick didn't respond, but my mom did. One last time. A voicemail, her voice broken, and not because of pride this time, but because I think she finally understood. I know you're protecting your family. I know he crossed the line again. I wish we had known how far you were willing to go when it really mattered. When showing up would have made a difference. I sat on the floor holding my phone while Antonio stacked blocks beside me. The kind of quiet moment that meant more than any birthday party, more than any family dinner. And I realized this was my revenge. Not revenge by anger, not by screaming or cutting deep, but by building a life so solid, so full of love and stability and respect that the people who took it for granted had no choice but to stand outside of it. Cold, quiet, and alone. I didn't slam the door on them, but I did close it. And this time, I locked it from the inside, and that's where it ends. Sometimes, cutting someone off isn't about revenge. It's about peace. About protecting what you've built even if it means walking away from where you came from. Let me know in the comments. Was the ending too harsh or long overdue?